The debate surrounding ICANN's highly controversial plan to expand the number of top-level domain names to an unlimited number is continuing to gain attention since interested parties could begin applying for branded domains this month. As WebProNews previously reported, this decision would potentially eliminate the current .com, .net, and other endings that consumers have become accustomed to using. And as expected, ICANN's move has been met with a lot of opposition, led primarily by the Association of National Advertisers. It, along with more than 150 other organizations, has formed the Coalition for Responsible Internet Domain Oversight in an effort to voice their concerns. And Dan Jaffe, the Executive Vice President of Government Relations for ANA, has represented the coalition before the U.S. Senate and is joining us now to discuss the latest on the issue. Thank you for being here today, Dan.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, for starters, just remind us why ANA believes ICANN's decision could be harmful.
ANA believes that the proposals to have an unlimited expansion of top-level domains is reckless and certainly premature. As you know, there are presently 22 top-level domains. Those are everything to the right of the dotted and internet address. And there are more than 100 million secondary domains. That's everything to the left of the dotted and internet address. This will be exponentially increased. Unfortunately, in the existing system, there are serious problems of cyber squatting, typo squatting, phishing, the placement of malware, the inability to find out who in fact really owns internet addresses. Often you find when you go to examine who are the owners that they write under the names of things like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and God and names of famous people who in fact have not actually, have the responsibility for those internet names. We're afraid unless these types of problems are resolved, that suddenly opening the top-level domain to as many as 1,000 new top-level domains, which is thousands of % increase over the existing systems, would be very, very dangerous, both to business and to consumers.
Right, and late last year the U.S. Senate held a hearing to examine the matter. So can you tell us what you said to try to persuade them to take action?
Well, I said all of that. I said, just a moment ago, but pointed out that it's not just a concern of the business community and not just the U.S. business community, because CRIDO, as you mentioned, which is 161 groups, associations, and companies, represent many groups that are internationally based, but also international government organizations have spoken out about the potential dangers to their names. That includes the UN, NATO, the World Health Organization, and many other of the most famous international organizations. Many of the not-for-profit community have spoken out, saying that this would be potentially very harmful to them. And many of the top government leaders in this country, including the chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and many subcommittee chairmen have also said that it would be premature to roll this out. And they said, and when it's rolled out, it should be done on a limited pilot project basis. So we're hopeful that ICANN will be very careful about what they do. They say they're going to tighten up their various types of protections, but we think that needs to be done before you open this up in such a wide basis, and we hope that ICANN will take those steps.
Right. Well, ICANN claims that its uniform rapid suspension system will prevent companies from needing to buy domains on the defensive side. Do you agree with this system at all?
Well, certainly the UDRP system is a step in the right direction, but they have not. They have put in several protections, but they have never run a pilot project to see if those various protections really work in the real world. We think that if you were asked to get onto a ship that in the past had clearly had serious holes in it, which is certainly the existing top-level domain system, you would not do that unless there had been a shakedown cruise to see that those holes had been filled. And there are many groups, including the Federal Trade Commission, who believe that those holes have not been adequately filled. They have said that the rollout is a possible disaster for both business and consumers, and wrote a very detailed letter to ICANN detailing their concerns. So, as I say, there's a large number of groups from all segments of the Internet community who have raised these concerns, and it seems to me that ICANN has still not adequately responded to those concerns as of now. So we'll have to see how this is going to play out, because the window has now opened for the top-level domains and will shut again in mid-April. And then we'll see exactly how this is going to play itself out. But it seems to us that prudence, care, thoughtfulness for the health of the Internet community suggests that we move in a very, very deliberate manner in this area. ICANN is running some of the fundamental areas of the Internet, and therefore we want to make sure that they run them properly, or ICANN's own future will seriously be undermined.
Right, and another issue that's been raised from a search engine perspective, Google, for example, doesn't like it when companies have multiple websites. So what are the implications of this issue provided ICANN's plan is fully executed?
Well, we'll see how, again, still to be seen, but in the past, they have claimed that there's not going to be a lot of defensive registration. But we've seen just in the XXX experience that many universities, colleges, universities, and companies defensively bought sites on XXX not to use them, but to make sure that nobody else used them to their harm. Ohio State University, for instance, bought 19 secondary domains. Indiana bought 11. Many other groups tried to buy domains like the Council for Better Business Bureaus, the CBBB, and were unable to buy that because BBB had already been taken up by adult entertainment groups. So once you start having hundreds, if not thousands, of new domains, obviously these problems are going to continue to expand, and we think that those kinds of expenditures do not lead to more jobs, do not lead to more expenditures that are productive for the economy, and therefore are something that we should try to make every step to avoid these types of defensive registrations. And we do not believe that the ICANN system yet takes that into adequate account.
Well, as you said, ANA has pleaded with ICANN to reverse its decision on many levels, and earlier this month it sent a letter asking for a do not sell list for brands. So can you explain a little bit more about this request and how it was received?
Well, what the do not sell list would say is that if you have a trademark and you do not want to have a top-level domain, that you can put your name on this list for no cost, because ICANN claims it doesn't want defensive registration, and that at least for the window that has now opened, that no one would be able to use those names. ICANN has not, to my knowledge, and I think I would be aware, answered our request. They have been quoted in some trade press on the Hill, which is one of the trade press for those who follow what goes on in the Congress, stating that they would not respond favorably to this approach. But the Department of Commerce has also asked them to set up methods to avoid defensive registration. So if they don't like this idea, what will they do to protect against defensive registration if they're really sincere about their concern in that regard?
Right. Well, ICANN says it has already approved 25 successful registrants since it began accepting applications this month. So what is the ANA doing now, and what action can be taken at this point?
Well, obviously we're going to have to. We don't know. They can say whatever they say, but it's all behind the screen. You can't see exactly what's happening until the end of the window is closed, and then they will announce who has signed up and who hasn't. And we've never said that there should be no more top-level domains, that there's something sacrosanct or magical about the number 22 top-level domains. What we do say, however, is that opening it up in this absolutely unfettered manner does not make sense. If there are domains that make sense, that can be justified on a cost-benefit basis, that's, in our view, is quite valuable and productive. But just saying that anybody can have a top-level domain and open it up, and that any name in the world that someone can basically imagine can be used, we think is going to lead to, as I say, a great deal of adverse impacts both to businesses and to consumers.
You mentioned the XXX domains earlier, and Man, one of the largest, companies in the porn industry has filed a suit against ICANN over these domains. So what are your thoughts on this, and do you expect to see similar suits in the near future?
I just don't know the answer to that, and I do not know enough about that specific suit to even be able to comment on it, but it clearly shows that there are those who, at least as I understand it, are claiming that there were some antitrust violations in regard to the XXX proposal. That'll be something, obviously, that'll have to be hashed out in the court. We're looking at a more global issue, which is, how the whole of the Internet management, which is obviously the names and numbers of Internet addresses, is a critical part of how we run the Internet, is handled. We think this is absolutely a top issue for the business community across the whole of the world, and needs to be done appropriately, or it will severely undermine the trust that has begun to be built up to make the Internet one of the largest marketplaces in history, the largest marketplace in history.
Right. Well, do you have any advice for advertisers and marketers as ICANN's plan is seemingly carried out?
Everybody is going to have to look at their own situation and what would make the most sense for them. But we are told by many, many of our members and many members of CRIDO, this larger coalition, that they do not want to buy top-level domains but feel tremendous pressure to do so, to be 100% protective of their trademarks, which in many instances are worth billions of dollars. And we think that unfortunately is something that they should not be faced with, that sort of choice of having to do something that they do not believe is economically in their own interest, but only in their interest to be protective against others harming them. So we're hoping, as I said, that both the Department of Commerce will use its affirmation of commitments authority and its oversight of the IANA contracts, which deal with the whole right of ICANN to assign names and numbers, and ICANN itself to listen to the critics within its own community to really respond to these very legitimate concerns.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for talking with us, Dan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. You take care.
You're very welcome. ICANN is accepting applications for new GTLDs until April 12th of this year. Reporting for WebProNews, I'm Abby Johnson.